Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Wednesday edition, the Midweek Sports Blitz, college football, basketball, baseball, recruiting. We're going to cover it all next 2 hours as we are 6 days a week, 50 hours a month of content coming out. Check us out, sidelines.live. Follow us on Twitter at sidelines_live. Great lineup today. We're going to be talking with Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers, Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline from Oxford, Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal in Savannah, and in quarter number 4, Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, checks in from the classic city, Athens, Georgia. Look, let's get started right away. I know Jason's on a tight schedule this morning. And, Jason, I love the comments and the discussion that's been brought up by Hugh Freeze about spring games, playing other teams. You know, Auburn playing Troy, Alabama playing UAB or Alabama State, whatever. I go back to an edition of the Auburn Plainsman I read in April of 1980. And Doug Barfield, then the Auburn coach, was there, and he said, why don't we start playing teams that we never play? Back then, the SEC was only 10 teams. Mm-hmm. Because I think Auburn fans would be interested in if we played Kentucky or LSU or maybe we played, Ole Miss. We don't play these teams every year. I think we could draw a big crowd. So let's give credit to old Doug Barfield, a native of Oak Grove, Alabama, Southern Miss grad. But I remember that talk, and I love the idea. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's funny. Doug Barfield goes to my church. I see him often, and so I get to see him a good bit. Great man, but
yeah, he is.
But yeah, I think it's a great idea. Honestly, will the NCAA ever go on board with it? Probably not, because it's a good idea. That means they probably won't come on board. But and Hugh Freeze has some really good points. First of all, you're right. Yeah. I think you could go a home and away and rotate things through. And I mean, what would that do for a Troy or UAB to have Auburn or Alabama come for a spring game? I mean, it would be fantastic. And the other part of it is, and he's exactly right, the biggest part of this thing is that it reduces injuries by 50%.
Yeah.
And he was like, how does that happen? Well, your entire team is on the field every play of a spring game, which means you've doubled your risk of injury. It's just offense, defense, or special teams if you're playing another opponent. Gives you a chance to compete against somebody, and to do it for a charity in this day and age would be phenomenal. So, I mean, to me, there's no downside at all. You play practice games in every other sport. In basketball, they play one in the dumbest thing of all time. They're not allowed to talk about it and not allowed to tell you anything about it, but they play it. I think it would be a great idea. To me, there's no downside to it, which means, like I said, the NCAA probably will not even bat an eye about it.
But I kept thinking about this. I'm so glad that it's being brought up, but it just creates interest in your state. I mean, John Summerall coached down at Troy they won 10 games last year. Their fans would love it. Have it at Auburn, have it at Troy, wherever you have it. I also think it would get the players hyper focused on that game. Yeah. That's you want to walk away from that game feeling like you've accomplished something.
Yeah, and it does. It gives you a little bit more of an opportunity to kind of know what you got when you're facing an opponent you don't face every day. Right now, offense and defense, they know what the other side's doing, and they've seen all this stuff all spring, especially in Auburn's case where you don't have as much on both sides of the ball. I'm sure that can become pretty tedious, and that's what you want to avoid if you're a coaching staff, is to not have those days where you feel like, well, we didn't get anything done. That's why they've been going slow to try to add things to kind of keep that attention and moving forward. So, yeah, I like it. I know that you're right. John Summerall's meant to something. Trent Dilfer's meant to something. Going, hey, we'd be all for it. And I'm sure they would be. If you're Auburn, Alabama, those schools, those aren't programs that you're going to compete against. If you go out there in a spring game and they turn it loose and they beat you in a spring game, so what? It probably bothered a lot of fans, but it won't really matter. And so what it would do for you from a program standpoint, and just football in general in the state of Alabama would be pretty huge.
I can assure you, Chase, you and I both know how people in Alabama are about being competitive.
Yeah.
If UAB were to beat Alabama and Troy were to beat Auburn, the players, the fans, everybody might be even more dialed in on the upcoming season. Jason, I really don't even know where to begin. I go to your website, multiple times every day. There's so much quality content coming out of there. Give us the names of the writers. I mean, there's so many doing it, it's football, it's basketball, it's recruiting, it's everything. It's like the crawl on the bottom of the screen, but it's on your own website. Hey, people, cost is only an issue in the absence of any added value. Pay a little bit extra and do the VIP. I mean, if you get a physical, do you want the doctor to only look at, 75% of you? Go all in and go VIP. But let's talk about that because there is just a lot happening.
Yeah, we got, like I said, lots of stuff going on. Nathan King does a great job of covering, football, basketball, got his eyes on the portal, those kind of things, doing those things. Christian Clemente he's been killing it in the recruiting side of things. So I'm trying to help out in doing some of those things as well. Obviously, football, baseball, recruiting, basketball, softball with Philip Marshall. Mark Murphy's still there, even though he's taking a little bit of a hiatus right now, a well-deserved little run, even though he'll be here Saturday covering the spring game. Yeah. He's going to cover football. Yeah. But so we still got lots of irons in the fire, and you're right. It's a never-ending process of information. We've had good information throughout spring practice. I had an insider this morning with some thoughts on football and the offense, how it's continued to really the last week or so has come on and had really good days offensively for this team. So got all those things you can check out there at auburnundercover.com, autigers.com.
All right, and so for the people that may not be aware of this, Hugh Freeze, I like it being different. They're going to give the defense is going to have a 24-point lead. They're going to spot them 24 points, which they're going to give them a 24-point edge. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, basically that's kind of what it takes. About 24 points is what it takes for an offense to go out and really give yourself a chance to win a football game nowadays. That's kind of the number. So you set that total at 24 and go, okay, don't let them get past that defensively, and you're in pretty good shape. Offensively, you got to get to that number. And so I love it because I'm not a fan, and I talked about that to Hugh Freeze on Monday. I'm not a fan, and he's not either, of, well, they got a first down, there's 2 points. Well, that's not football, because you can have 100 first downs in a game and not score a point. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And so it is absolutely going to be about scoring, nothing about offense, and those things don't matter. And so, I like it that it's not a math equation to try to figure out who won a spring game and who had a point here, a point there. It's going to be a football game, but he did warn, and I'm glad he did, that look, they only have a certain amount of stuff in, and right now one of their advantages is that people haven't seen them on TV. They don't know what this is actually going to look like, and so it's going to be really scaled down, I think, on Saturday. We'll see them throw it around a little bit, but you're not going to see a bunch of things that I think are bases of this offense, probably the tempo, some of those things. I don't know that we'll see a bunch of that.
Yeah. Jarquez Hunter getting a lot of praise from Hugh Freeze out of Philadelphia, Mississippi, Neshoba County High School. I've run the Heart of Dixie Triathlon there a few times. That's hilly, horse country over there, farm country. He's a cowboy. I mean, I watched him from high school and when he came to Auburn. He is one of the strongest running backs Auburn's ever had. For Hugh Freeze to say he's the best running back he's ever coached, man, that's saying a lot.
It is, and especially at Ole Miss, Hugh Freeze had some good running backs, but they didn't ever have a guy that you went, and that guy's a game changer. Jordan Wilkins, longtime Auburn commitment, before he went to Ole Miss, was probably the best guy they had. Had a couple other ones that were pretty good. And he's had a couple other ones along the way. But you look at the potential of Jarquez Hunter, and people have wondered, over the years, talking about Hugh Freeze and their ability to run the football and do some of those things. Well, the flip side of that is when you have a guy like this, and hey, Damari Alston and Brian Battie, Sean Jackson's there, and then Jeremiah Cobb coming in. When you have guys like that, then it might allow you to run the football more. And sometimes you don't do that because you don't have those guys. But Jarquez Hunter is a guy that I think the best thing about him is his off the field stuff. I mean, you listen to Cadillac Williams talk about him. It's like, look, anything you want done. And I think he's torn from that cloth of those guys in the 80s. When you think about a guy like that going, okay, you need me to go cover kicks? I'll do that. You need me to return kicks? I'll do that too. Never says a word. I mean, he just goes about his business. And I kind of like him liken him a little bit to Brent Fullwood, in that, Brent Fullwood was a guy that was in the shadows for a couple of years. You could see glimpses of it, but he never really had that opportunity. And then in 1986, he had that opportunity, and you see what happens. He has an unbelievable year. Will Jarquez Hunter have that type of year coming out of the Tank Bigsby shadow? We'll see, but I think he's a guy that has some similar characteristics.
Yeah, and when you look at him, it's his leg strength is just what really stands out. And strong in the weight room. And I know from my son and his friends at Auburn that know Jarquez, everybody says good things about him, not just as a football player, but as a person. And he's an HCI, high character individual, is what everybody says. Jason, offensive line, nobody's done a better job of breaking down and chronicling Auburn's problems there the last 5 or 6 years. The numbers have gone up. Is there quality in the increased quantity?
Yeah, I think they've been really pleased by the offensive line group at this point. They still need numbers. That's going to be the goal. And probably in this portal period, they're probably going to try to go sign. Hugh Freeze has talked about bringing in 9. I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to go get another tackle and another interior guy out of the portal just to add to this group, just for depth purposes. Because you look and you bring in 3 transfers, you bring in a junior college guy, you got some holdovers. There's still not a lot of quality depth in terms of guys that have ever played football at this level before. So having a couple of those other guys like that to try to get you through a Southeastern Conference season is vital. And so I think they'll do that. But Avery Jones at center has been, I think, better than they hoped, and they thought he was going to be a good player. I think he's been better than they hoped and expected. Then you look at Dylan Wade and Gunnar Britton, those guys at tackle are guys that I think has been good. Xavier Miller, the junior college signee, too tall, has done a good job as well. And then you got some guys that have kind of made an impact that are returners, guys like Tate Johnson, and obviously Jeremiah Wright's a guy that hasn't been through all the contact, but is out there. Cam Stutz is still back, and then Connor Liu, as a true freshman, has stepped it up. So they've done a great job of doing exactly what they had to do, and not what they needed to do. They had to do to have a competitive group. Now they're just looking to add a couple more pieces to it to try to get them enough to get through, what you always know you're going to have, which is injuries on an offensive line. Yeah.
Jason, also, some of the defensive guys, Keldrick Falk is at a Highland home, got upgraded to a 5-star. He's like 6'4", 270. Dylan Brooks was a 5, then a 4. He's a project. But of those edge rushers, who's really stood out the most in terms of improvement so far in the spring?
Yeah, Keldrick Falk's actually like 6'6", 275. I mean, so he looks, if he could deliver that, but he looks like, some of these guys that were basketball / defensive end guys like a Julius Peppers. That's what he looks like on the field. Now, if he could ever get to that level of Julius Peppers, it'd be great for Auburn. But Keldrick Falk still hasn't had a workout in terms of, he had, surgery on his wrist and his thumb coming out of Highland Home. And so he didn't have the weight room in January. So he'll have that now after they finish spring practice, be able to do that through the summer. But Keldrick Falk, Brenton Williams, true freshman from Opelika, 2 early enrollee guys have been good. They've done those things. But, I think that's another need area. They need a true pass rusher to come off the edge. And, without that, a little Cam Riley at times, they've probably gotten some looks there. And then Powell Gordon, redshirt freshman, as a guy that has shown some things, and not a surprise. I saw him do that a bunch in high school. So they'll probably going to have to use the linebackers a little bit in terms of the pass rush to help out some at that edge position, because have a true speed like D Ford, Derek Hall type pass rusher at the moment.
All right, a couple more minutes. I know you got to go. Zykevious Walker decided to stay. He's the highest rated recruit, him or Keldrick Falk, on the roster. How are he and the defensive linemen looking this spring?
There's a lot of depth, and so I think some of the additions there have done a good job of bolstering this group. Messiah Nasili Kite, a guy from Maryland, is a guy that a little bit maybe undersized. He's probably 6'2", 280, but really athletic and strong. And then, you look at Justin Rogers on the other end of the spectrum, 6'4", 345, probably as a defensive lineman, but can move, big-bodied guy. He looks like the guys that Alabama and Georgia have had in the middle of their defenses for a long time. And that's kind of the style of defense they want to have, is that true 3-4 that you can kind of hybrid it to a 4-3, but you want a true nose, a true tackle, and then a big end kind of guy. And, that's what they're looking forward to, I think. But you look at Justin Rogers has done those things. So you look, him and Jason Jones back in the middle gives you two big body, strong guys there. Marcus Harris back at tackle has done some things. But, I think there's some young guys to watch there. But there's Zykevious Walker kind of back to, being healthy, probably a more traditional position for him as a 3-4 tackle end instead of, playing the inside in that 4-man front. So we'll see if it allows him to unlock that potential.
Yeah. Jason, real quick before you go, let people know how they can follow you again, keep up with you, and great work. And looking forward to hearing your report on A-Day next week.
Yeah, you can check us out at auburnundercover.com, autigers.com as well. And it's a very busy weekend when you think about everything going on. Got baseball series, got Frank Thomas statue Saturday morning, the unveiling there. Obviously A-Day game. Just fingers crossed that the weather holds off on us for Friday and Saturday. Looking a little sketchy right now. So check it, find all that out, and then tons of recruiting information. We have lots of visitors on campus. So find it all there at auburnundercover.com and follow me on Twitter at ITATJason.
Will do, Jason. Have a great day. We'll be right back with more in just a moment.
From Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Great stuff with Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers. A lot going on. I think that what he said about the offensive line really has hurt Auburn in a lot of schools the last few years. Auburn's bringing in Jake Thornton, Ole Miss's offensive line coach, to try and fix the really, it's been a mess at Auburn. It's been lack of talent, lack of depth, but they're bringing in the numbers. And as Jason said, look for Hugh Freeze, Jake Thornton, and the Auburn coaches to go out in May, early May, for that next portal window and try to sign a couple of more offensive linemen. But as far as the transfer portal goes, in basketball, you immediately had, right after Auburn was out, Johan Traore and Chance Westry have both announced they're going into the transfer portal. Come on, man. Guys need to learn how to work hard and fight. Things don't go their way. All the portal's doing is what parents never, ever want to teach their children. And that is that if they whine and throw a big enough fit and temper tantrum, they're going to get whatever they want. Or if they don't want to do something, they can just quit and not do it. A lot of people had a drug problem when they were kids. They didn't want to get up in the morning, but they got drug out of bed by their parents and drug to church and drug to school and whatever else. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Man, you better. This is what's happening. I mean, look. That was pathetic to hear. I think both LSU and Iowa should be invited to the White House. No, they shouldn't. We don't give participation trophies. Can't we all go along to get along? No, you got to earn it. We're going down a slippery slope. Only the national champions, the LSU Tigers, are invited to the White House. And even the Iowa players, they know better than that. Don't mess with Mother Nature. There are men, there are women. It's no debate. Okay? This is silly. I'm going to tell you what. You know what? Everybody's been getting on LSU and Iowa. They were all talking trash during the game. That's what athletes do. And after the game, my only gripe was I would like to have seen them shaking hands and good sportsmanship. But we don't need long diatribes and essays about how people behave and everything like that. People have, look, go back. You can go back into the late 1940s. High schools, there were bench clearing brawls, fights like you've never seen. This stuff's been going on forever. The difference is there's more cameras. We hear stories all the time about there's more tornadoes and more storms than ever. No, there's not. There's just more radar and there's more video. And instead of somebody saying, hey, there's a big wind come through the cow pasture out there, now they know if it's an actual tornado or not because they've got radar covering every square inch. I'll tell you what, people. It's easy. It is so easy to just get caught up in the headlines and the negativity, but don't do it. Don't go down that path. Like Coach Dye would always say, I don't allow my quarterbacks to have a negative thought. It's a waste of your brain. I'm not a doctor, but you got serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine. Those are the feel-good chemicals that make you. That's why when you exercise, you release all those endorphins. If you sit on your ass all day on the couch and don't do anything and just eat and drink and you wonder why you're overweight, well, that's kind of why. You gotta get up and do something. You have absolutely no chance to succeed if you wake up in the morning to a snooze button and keep hitting snooze over and over and over. You're not going to accomplish anything laying on your back. But anyway, this is a great time of year, and it's going to be fun to watch the LSU women's basketball team go to the White House, as only the national champions get to do. Nobody else gets invited. That's just the way it is. Okay? Congratulations. And some of the stuff, social media, it happens so fast. Just shake hands after the game and say, hey, look, I think we all know this. We say some things. If you are in a duck blind with 5 other guys, you're going to say some things to one another, especially if a group of ducks come in and somebody shoots too early before the group shot, or, you got to have someone that's going to call the shot. It's like that in sports. People say a lot of things. I know I do. And I just say, please excuse, some things we say during a game in the heat of competition when we're watching a game on TV with friends or whatever like that. But good grief, man. It's not like that Caitlin Clark and Angel Thomas. They'll probably be teammates on some WNBA team one day and win a bunch of championships. But I'll tell you one thing. Again, here it is Wednesday. Still people talking about women's basketball because it was a hell of a game. 102 points scored. Look, look at the greatest women's national championship collections. Gino Ariana at UConn has 11. Pat Summitt won 8 at Tennessee. I know Kim Mulkey has 4 now, 3 at Baylor, 1 at LSU. Dawn Staley's got a couple at South Carolina. There's some other coaches that I can't think of right now. But look in basketball, men's basketball. Okay, Kansas had 4 national champions, and UConn was tied with Kansas. Now UConn has passed the mighty Kansas Jayhawks with 5 national champions. And so you've got Duke with 5, Indiana, North Carolina, I think, has 5 or 6. Kentucky has 7. UCLA has like 11. UCLA won 10 of those back when the tournament was, I think, only a 16-team field. Not that they're not good, but that's interesting. And I tell you one thing. You look at college basketball. Yesterday we had a great quorum on there with former LSU coach John Brady, Frank Duffy, Doug Dean, Coach Matt Dean from Rhodes College, who's coached women and men in college basketball. And one of our members of that distinguished round table, that quartet of great cerebral power, said something that really rings true. Going forward, you're not going to be talking so much about the Blue Bloods doing this or that, with the portal being what it is. And I don't agree with Charles Barkley on this one. I don't think we're going to have 25 or 30 schools because of NIL, and the rest of them will be irrelevant. I think there'll be more schools, Charles, that will be relevant. And it doesn't take that many players to become relevant in a hurry in college basketball. It does in football, but not in basketball. So UConn now 5 national championships up there with Duke and Indiana. And Indiana won their last national championship. Golly, it's been a while. Please tell me it's not 1987. It's been a while. That's when they beat Keith Smart's great shot in the Louisiana Superdome to win it all for the mighty Hoosiers. But, you know, the SEC and the Big 12, the Big East, I'm going to say the Big East is the best basketball league in America. Then you got the Big 12. SEC would be right behind the Big 12. I would give them that. But the trend going forward, and the SEC schools are not going to change. They're not going to deviate from this. They're going to continue to recruit these superstars, and a lot of them will be one and done. A little bit of trivia that our good friend Doug Dean in the Magic City, Birmingham, gave us last week. This is the first ever Final Four, I believe, where there were no McDonald's All-Americans on any of those 4 teams. Last Tuesday, I think it was the McDonald's All-American game. There were 23 players out there. It was on ESPN, and it was a good game. But Coach Matt Dean said yesterday another something that really, really rings true. When was the last time the Kentucky model really did well, bringing in a bunch of one-and-dones and bringing home a national championship? For what Kentucky pays John Calipari, it's not a good return on investment. The last time Kentucky won the national championship was 2012. That's 11 years ago. Do the math. And you look at a program like Villanova, won it in 2016. They won it in 2018. Jay Wright, you know, his first 3 or 4 years at Villanova, he realized, hey, we're 500, and we've had 5 5-star players signed with the program the first 3 years, and we're a 500 program. Maybe we need to go back and break this thing down and do a deconstruction analysis. Why isn't Villanova winning? He did it. You know what they realized? Hey, we're not recruiting kids to fit this culture. They don't understand that we're not getting the message across to them that Villanova is a private Catholic university with rigid academic standards. Okay? No time for rent students. You got to be committed. You know? It's a Catholic school, which means the academic standards are going to be tough. Nobody in the world comes close to the Catholics when it comes to educating people from every background. Case in point, the LaSallian brothers. It all began on Adams in 1871. Christian Brothers High School in Memphis. It's not even close. So they started recruiting kids that fit the culture at Villanova, not just a bunch of 5 stars and 4 stars. And they built teams. And Jay Wright won the national championship. And I won the office betting pool in 2016. And they won it again in 2018. And unfortunately, Jay Wright stepped out of the coaching ring last year. He's great on TV. Love him. Think he's fantastic. And the bottom line is I believe that Jay Wright will be back in coaching. I think he's going to find the right fit. Villanova was perfect for him. I think he went to Villanova. But wherever he goes, he's going to win. But the smartest thing he or any coach can do is make sure you recruit kids that will fit your program. That's what you got to do. Just recruiting a bunch of guys that are coming in to play basketball and aren't really it's an insult to other students in school there. And it's an insult to anyone who's ever gotten, received an earned. You're not given. You are everything worth in life worth having is worth working for, worth fighting for. You earn your college degree. And honestly, if they're just going to be a one and done, they really ought to send them straight to the G League. That to me would be a lot smarter because it's silly. Most of these guys, they're going to go to class, I guess, at first semester. I don't think they can flunk you out until after 2 semesters. Audrey, can we get a confirmation on that? If you're a 5-star and you don't really care about school, but you want to go to Kentucky or wherever you go, you still have to go to class first semester, and you could get a buckshot, a 0.00, and then you could, if you did that, could you be enrolled in January for the second semester, or do you have to maintain a certain GPA at the end of the first semester to get to the second semester? And we know they're taking a rigid academic load, of course. Mechanical engineering, biochemistry, physics. Yeah, those are the typical classes. Yancy Porter checks in with us right now. And Yancy, I'll tell you what, the link conversation, Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers, what's going on down there spring practice. And what's going on with the Rebel. And I like this idea of Hugh Freeze. Why can't Auburn play Troy and Alabama play UAB or Alabama State for spring game? Is there interest in Ole Miss playing Alcorn or Southern Miss for a spring game? You think that's going to be there just for the fans, and it reduces by 50% the likelihood of injury?
I love the idea, but I've never heard that being tossed around. That's for sure. But I think that's a great idea. But look, Lane's spring scrimmages in the past, they haven't really been game-like situations full out. I think this year they're going a little bit more to a game-like situation. So, I doubt Lane would be for that, but why not? It generates excitement, especially for the smaller schools in your state. I think it'd be a great idea.
Yeah, and it creates interest, and it could be money. And Hugh Freeze is saying, hey, it could go toward certain charities that they decide they want to send the money to. But it would create a lot of interest. I think it would keep the fans, let's say that Southern Miss were to beat Ole Miss or whatever. It's not the end of the world, but it would also put a lot of pressure because spring game or not, it's still that's what I'm saying. I think it would create a ton of interest in the spring. If and you could even do some scrimmages with some of those other schools. That part of it right there. You could have a national game for your spring game, and then for a couple of other scrimmages, play some in-state schools. I mean, I really think that would draw a lot of interest.
Yeah, it'd be like the NFL model, right? Where you get to practice against other teams. Everybody gets sick of beating each other up. Now as far as Ole Miss playing Southern Miss for the spring game with an actual score, that would be a little bit different, I would think. I love the idea of playing some of the smaller schools, practicing things like that, maybe even for a spring game. I think it's a great idea. It's not going to happen because the NCAA would have to allow that to happen, and I don't think they are. But heck, I mean, anything else goes now with the NCAA, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean, they're letting players quit on a dime. And okay, hey, let's talk about that right after this with Yancy Porter.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
Yancy, looking at that, the spring game, you're right. The NCAA, that's what Jason said, the same thing. They won't do it because it makes too much sense, but they're allowing the transfer portal. They've at least tried to slow it down by saying after you transfer the first time, immediately with no strings attached, no teeth in it. The second time, you got to sit out a year. Really, why not just do like we've always done it? Because your education, colleges are there to teach you, to educate you about life. And we all know that, I mean, look at it. If you buy certain investments, there are contingent deferred sales charges. There's interest penalties. If you pull a CD out too early, you can be charged 3 months worth of interest. I mean, you've got to have, there's got to be some understanding, because you look at guys now, when you sign them, do you feel the same, Yancy, when you see a kid sign with you in football or basketball, especially those two, that he's going to be there for 3, maybe 4 years? Or do you say, well, this is just an audition, and if they get there and things don't go their way, that window opens up in mid-December, they're gone? That's how I see it. I see it now as more of just National Signing Day is really just the first group of people to audition to try out for football or basketball.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at it, does the player have a chance to make an immediate impact, or is he going to be a developmental guy that takes a couple years to develop, like it has been for 95% of the players for, day one of football? And if they are, there's a good chance you'll be developing them and they'll be playing for somebody else.
And so there's your problem. Basketball-wise, let's talk about what Chris Beard's doing there. He immediately, I watched his opening introductory press conference there at the Pavilion, and he looked over there at the players and said, I'm going to meet with y'all right away. Talk about roster management. That's critical. And on top of that, very few people love recruiting like Kirby Smart in football, Hugh Freeze, and Chris Beard. let's talk about where the Rebels are on basketball recruiting.
Well, it's been really tight-lipped. There have not been any public commitments outside of the players on the roster. Malik Ewan, the center that was missing MIA the whole season after the alleged car wreck where his friend was killed back in, I think it was early December. He only played in a handful of games. He went into the portal, but, Morrell announced he's coming back. Caldwell announced he was coming back. Brayfield announced he was coming back. Ruffin has not said anything publicly, but he's not gone into the portal. Abram went into the portal. There's some questions if he's coming back or not. And then it's a lot of guys, that are going to be coming in from the portal. You had Marshall, he announced a signee, their highest rated signee there. He's coming. He's going to stick and sign with Ole Miss. Burks, another one of their signees, went into the portal. The point guard out of Mississippi ended up flipping from Ole Miss to State. The signee there out of Jackson, MRA. And so, that's left them with about 4 or 5 spots right now for the portal, maybe up to 6, depending on what Abrams does. There's a lot of talk that Flanagan, from Auburn, the assistant coach, he played for Beard there at Little Rock, and there's a lot of talk that he's going to come to Ole Miss and he's going to bring 2 to possibly 3 players with him off of that Auburn team. So we'll see. That's kind of been the latest hot rumor is, that could happen very quickly.
You're talking about Wes Flanagan?
That's right.
Yeah, who played at Auburn?
Yes, he played for Beard coached with Beard, played for Beard, something there at Little Rock as well.
Yeah, because Wes played for his dad, and then Alan Flanagan played in Little Rock, high school. He's on the team at Auburn now, but
no. I think Wes coached with Beard at Little Rock as a grad student or something like that. Alan is his son that plays for Auburn right now.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Beard is a transformational kind of coach. I mean, he's going to be the kind of guy. If anybody could pull that off, Chris Beard could do it.
Yeah, that's kind of been going around now for about a week or two, and I don't know what players are involved. Obviously, I think Allen would be, one that they're looking at. They were talking about maybe he was going to, kind of see where he would fall in the draft. You're more familiar with the Auburn program than I am, and there was maybe a couple players that went into the portal from Auburn or going into the portal that Flanagan had been heavily involved in recruiting. So there's a center at Nevada that Beard had recruited. He's a 7'1" guy that they're really heavily after, a center from Oregon as well. As we discussed before, as Coach Brady discussed there on your show, Ole Miss is, they got to get some 4s and 5s on that team, and that's really who they're really pitted after right now, and possibly another point guard. Especially, we're going to see what happens with Abram.
Yeah, getting a point guard is about as hard as finding a top-notch quarterback, and then you got to develop the guys when you get them there. And Yancy, what the takeaway from this year's tournament was, well, I mean, look at Kim Mulkey. She had maybe 1 player. This team that just won a national championship were all brought in via the portal. She goes out and she addresses her needs and says, this is what we need. And there's NIL, and that can make a lot of things happen. Well, look at the men. Out of the 363 schools, which is almost 3 times as many as you have eligible to make the college football playoff, 131, 68 schools made it. And in the Final Four, Yancy, there wasn't a single McDonald's All-American on any of those rosters. And look at and that San Diego State team, this is all information provided by our good friend Doug Dean, AU Dose in Birmingham. And Doug also pointed out that San Diego State was older, their roster, than 5 NBA teams. You can't make that stuff up. That's real. And so, there's an old saying.
You gotta love the COVID era, where players can still get 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, what's that old song? You can never go home. You can never go home.
Players.
Yeah, that's right.
And look,
what was that?
Next year, you'll still have some. You'll still have some COVID players next year.
Yeah, I mean, this is getting to be like, Daniel Simpson Day has no grade point average. And he goes, Mr. Blutarski, 0.00. He goes, 7 years of college ago. Down the drain. So, I mean, but what's the great line from Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz when she goes, you can never go home. You can never go home. Well, now with the virus year, you can never graduate. I mean, there are guys, I know they're on every roster. They're contemplating, will I come back? And when is the virus year going to stop? I mean, it is.
I think the next year would be it, unless you had a medical red shirt with it. Then I think it could carry on to the year after. So I think that's how it goes. If you have a red shirt and a medical, then you can get that 7th year again the year after that. So okay. I think that will be the end of it.
Well, we'll see what the NCAA does, but I just hope. I like the idea of these spring games and the scrimmages. I think that would create.
I love it. I love it. I really do. I think it would. Now, it would create interest, but a lot of these colleges like Alabama don't have open practices for spring. And maybe a Saturday, like Ole Miss. Lane goes, look what Saban does. All his disciples, they do the same thing he does. So, they've only had one open practice, and that was this past Saturday, the whole spring. So, probably a lot of those, if you did have that, the players would have interest because they would be beating up on somebody besides themselves. But the fans wouldn't be able to go unless the coaches had open practices. Now, Freeze, he's more open about everything. So he probably at Auburn, he probably has every spring practice open. Look, it's just downright silly why you don't have every practice open to begin with. You're not installing a game plan for an opponent next week. This is just about developing players, but whatever makes the coaches feel comfortable.
Well, here's the thing, and I go back that idea of having the spring games where, say, Ole Miss plays Southern Miss. It started back in April of 1980. I brought this up with Jason Caldwell on the show. I said it was April of 1980. I remember reading it in the Auburn Plainsman, the student newspaper. Doug Barfield, then the Auburn coach, said, why don't we play Kentucky or Ole Miss or LSU teams we don't play every year back in the old 10-game, SEC, 10-team SEC format? Yeah. And it was like, God, I remember as a kid going, that's a great idea. Well, Jason said, I know Doug Barfield. He goes to my church. I'm going to bring that up with him. I said, good, because he lives in Auburn. And I can't wait to hear what Doug Barfield says. They're talking about my idea, but Freeze is really pushing it. But here's the thing. We had this discussion last week about local media. Gary Harris in Tuscaloosa. He goes, Rob, they're having their 5th practice today out of 15, but I couldn't tell you what's going on. Nobody in the local media is allowed to go. And they send out a video once a week that's, scripted and choreographed and edited of what they want us to see. The only people that can come are somebody from ESPN or some out-of-town media source. Well, to piggyback on that, Buddy Martin, GatorbaitMedia.com, on the roundtable Saturday morning said, let me tell you what an expert is. An expert is somebody that comes in from out of town and has an opinion. Local guys, to hell with us. And I agree with all of them, and I agree with you. The more we've paid these coaches, the sillier it's become. They are employees of state universities, and it is high time they are held accountable and say, you know what? Practices are open. How do you build relationships with trust? How do you build trust with relationships? There is almost no trust between the fans and coaches now. And then they look at what they're getting paid financially. They can't want to fire them fast enough. We could flip that narrative if we started having trust and relationships building trust. Yancy, yay or nay on that one?
Well, the whole coaches, they don't mind the national media come in or getting insight. The local media is shut out. That's fine. That's all fine and dandy. We know why they do that so their narrative gets spread nationally. They're not really worried about what the locals think. They know they're fanatics anyway. It's a propaganda spin. We all know that. But what happens when you hit some bumps in the road? You're going to need that local media to cover your back. And then that's when they start usually coming back and say, hey, how are you? And you're like, well, where you been the last 4 years? You hadn't allowed any access to your program, screw off. And so, that's when they learn the hard way. Now, most of these coaches don't ever think they're going to be in that situation. They got so much confidence in themselves. But, I will say this, like here at Ole Miss, Lane announced that all practices would be closed. And I think there was some backlash from the media, local media. And then after 48 hours, he thought about it and came back and said, you know what? We're going to allow the local media to come to all the practices. Now, the fans can't come but on the Saturday scrimmages. But you still get three good scrimmages in a spring game. So that's plenty of access for the fans. And I do think that, some of the Vault Society members, stuff like that, the older retirees, they still come to practices and they eat that stuff up. But I'm with you. I mean, this is spring practice. And the problem, to make a long story short, this all comes back to TV money. Colleges simply aren't worried about attendance anymore because the TV money they get dwarfs what they get from fans in the stands. And so, they're not worried about generating that excitement to get the fans in the stands because they know they're going to get it from the SEC TV money.
Well, that being said, the atmospheres at these SEC stadiums, both in the stadium and all the tailgating going on outside, I call it the Grove effect from Ole Miss because Ole Miss made tailgating really what it is because they made it so special. And it's been great at a lot of places for a long time. But I'm with you. I think the local media, with the internet and podcast and all the stuff that goes on, your local media stuff goes national immediately anyway. So thinking that you've got to break, look, there's some great national writers. I'm not saying that, but if they can come to practice, you should let the local media come as well. And we think that we're so cool and so smart now. That's the way we have to do it. But Yancy, I would love, if I were the Ole Miss coach, to have you at my practices, and I would tell you what was going on. There are people that you're going to give information to, but you got to trust them. And if you don't have relationships, you know what I just said, relationships, trust, vice versa. And there's so much suspicion on the part of the fans. Coaches making all this money. Why can't we have access? Again, these are state universities. I mean, do we need to go to court and evoke the Sunshine Law?
Well, look, you can. I mean, I hate to say it, you can really point. You can look over there at Tuscaloosa for why a lot of this started, because again, people model their programs after Nick Saban, and Nick Saban's the one that has shut down practices. Nick Saban shut down where media couldn't even go to football camps and cover the players there. Nick Saban didn't allow his assistant coaches to talk to the media. He has totally shut his program down from everybody outside of that IPF over there. And now you have all of these disciples of his, like Kirby Smart and Lane Kiffin, and we can go on and on and on and on. His assistants that have become head coaches, and they follow that model. And why? Because he has had so much success. So really, I mean, if you really want to point the fingers at someone, you'd have to point it at Saban.
Yeah, and you're right about that. And I just, the paranoia is, to me, ridiculous. Because your practices, your whatever you're installing, your game plan, whatever, you're going to put that in. But you better build relationships with your fans because just like don't just call your clients when you got something to sell them. Call them to check on them. They'll remember that. Right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you with Yancy Porter. Yancy, talking about paranoia, big destroyer. All these coaches that worry like that, that starts with them, but it makes everybody else uptight. I mean, you've got to put the fun back into sports. That's what I'm saying. And we talk about how much TV money there is. Well, I mean, the SEC. What is your take on Disney? With Disney taking over, I hate losing that CBS 2:30 spot. As my boys Wilson and Max have said, Dad, that's iconic. You know, we have grown up watching the CBS game since birth with you and Grandbob and everybody. I don't like that. And I mean, ESPN does a great job, but I'll tell you one thing. I don't want them, I don't want Disney to try to tell us how we're going to tailgate. And I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it either at all. I don't like what's going on. Run the TV fronts, the times, Bobby, again. What time they are, Rob?
Well, see, CBS has always been 2:30, 3:30 Eastern.
Yeah,
but
they're all CBS.
And I think ESPN does a great job. But God, I mean, and I know, a lot of. But look, let's be honest. You go and you look at the trend is the cord cutters. I mean, that is you look in a lot of towns, there's 70 or 80% fewer people that are on the cable, some cable system now. They're streaming, and also CBS that game. Vern Lundquist, Gary Danielson, now Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson. Say what you want, that's an iconic moment. That's like the Tonight Show, Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon, and we've given that up. I'm telling you, ESPN, they cover a lot of games, but CBS, when they're covering that game, that is the only thing in the world to them. With ESPN, it's just they're talking about the next thing. They're kind of like that Seinfeld episode. Everybody's talking about, when are we going? When are we going to get there? Let's go. As soon as they get there, they go, okay, when are we leaving?
When does that start? Does that start this year or
no? In
24?
This is 24. Yeah, this is the last. Yeah. Look, I understand the SEC only got $55 million, and this Disney deal is supposed to be over ESPN over $300 million. But we better watch out. We better have people in the Southeastern Conference office that understand the market. I'm sure they do, but I just don't. The game times and 11 o'clock in the morning. Remember the great line in the snowstorm and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer when they got caught in that horrible blizzard, and Yukon Cornelius came and he said, "It's not fit for man nor beast out there tonight. Look what the Bumble can do." He put the star on top of the Christmas tree. 11 a.m. is the timeout game. You know, you get up in the morning. It's too early to start drinking. Well, not really. Not the guys I know. No, but still, you don't know whether to eat breakfast. Do I eat lunch? You know, the Beacon. What are we going to do? I love the 1:32. Here's the deal. Yancy, if you and I were the kings and the rulers, would we decree henceforth, now and forever, no college football game in the South will begin prior to 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon ever again? How about that?
Yeah, but here's the problem: as you look at the 11 o'clock ratings, TV ratings from last year, especially from some of these Big Ten games, that is their prime time slot, is the 11 o'clock game. And those are the highest watched games of the day. So, you know, when you get the TV ratings are coming in so high for that 11 o'clock slot, you know ESPN ain't going to give it up or not push for the SEC games to play there. But you're right. I mean, you're exactly right. Every single fan base just dreads that 11 o'clock game. And look, I mean, it's not that the game starts at 11. We all know that the football game, there is a process of 3 to 4 good hours before it starts and 3 to 4 good hours after it ends. Getting to, like at Ole Miss, you have to get to the Grove. That process to just drive 2 miles to the Grove takes you 2 to 2.5 hours. Then you got to unload everything. So the point being is that it's not just about the game anymore. It's about before the game and after the game and getting to the tailgating and leaving the tailgate and the whole process. You know, it is a 9-10 hour day, and you know, you have to get going at 7 o'clock in the morning for a football game, and it just doesn't feel right? If you could leave, you know, at 10:30 in the morning and drive over from your hotel, or if you live in Oxford, there to the game, or Auburn, or whatever, it'd be different. But yeah, the 11 o'clock is dreaded, and yes, those are for the teams that usually struggle, right? And Ole Miss has been there a lot in the past. So, you know, that is your timeout slot, as you call it. But what are we going to do now that the ratings are coming in so high for those 11 o'clock games now? You know, ESPN's will be pushing for even more big matchups to be played at 11 o'clock.
Well, think about this. Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal, grew up in South Georgia between Blythe and Augusta and Vidalia, played for the Florida Gators, for Spurrier and Ron Zook. And in the NFL, Ron, we're talking about ESPN taking over in 2024, and they're going, you know, the game times are going to be crazy. But real quick on that Big Ten, they call it Big Noon Saturday, and that is their primetime game is at 12 o'clock. But Ben, as a player, one of the nice northerly breeze, 5 to 10 miles an hour, 72 degrees on 11 a.m. in the swamp in Florida. It's really nice, isn't it? I mean, what did you think about the 11 o'clock game? Like, oh, no, man, what did I do wrong? My report card was better than that.
At first, when you first get to college, you don't understand how much of a blessing it is to get that early game because, let's face it, people, we don't have much of a life being a student athlete. I'm trying to enjoy my Saturday too. So I know it's great that you want to be the SEC game of the week, but that's before TV timeouts just ruined everything. It's not the time slides. It's any reason to go to a commercial. These sponsors, these advertisers, if somebody goes, hey man, somebody's shoe just came off, go to commercial. These games last so long. I remember we played Arkansas my senior year, and we had the 11 o'clock, I guess you call it 10 o'clock game in Arkansas because on Central Time. We got done with the game so early that us and Arkansas had a nice little early lunch. We got on the plane and got back to Gainesville. We didn't know what to do with ourselves because we're used to playing, having just enough time to kind of, you know, talk about the game, go to sleep. You get an early slot game. Early slot in college is equivalent to Monday Night Football in the NFL. I want to get it. I want the prime time slot, but the last thing you want to say is somebody say, hey, man, they moved our game to the feature game tonight. What? Yeah, we got moved from 11 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Ask the student athletes. The only people that want to do that are coaches.
Yeah,
parents don't want to do that because like you said, Yancy, listen, I feel bad for the tailgaters because, number one, I didn't know y'all getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning. Y'all are dedicated. If I got to do that to get this brisket ready, well, you don't come over here to tailgate with me. I ain't got nothing but utensils, plates, and napkins. So I can help you with some condiments to let you where the meat at. You better go down there with Yancy and them, man. Ain't no meat down here, bro. Because I'm not prepping for nothing at no 7 o'clock in the morning to give to other people. Hey, man, you want to try these beef tips? Hell yeah, I'm just not prepping them. I don't eat them. I'm not prepping them. So, yes, I will say, watch how Nick Saban pushes for them early games. Watch when he starts saying, oh, well, the players, because he knows that when he speaks, but now when Kirby speaks, everybody listens, as well as, and listen, Ole Miss, they've been good the last 2 or 3 years, man. Lane Kiffin, I don't know when the 9 to 10 wins become regular. You know how many teams can't win 10 games? So that early slot game will be the new feature game unless it's just like a top 10 matchup. And the first month of the season, every matchup in the SEC going to be a top 10 matchup because they're going to throw them all in that top 10, top 15.
Yeah, but Ben, have you been in Mississippi in September for 11 o'clock game?
Listen, I've been at the end of the day. Yes, I've heard about that. That's the thing too. Listen, if it's in the South, it's hot because the hottest place in the South, and you can quote me on this, is New Orleans, Louisiana, or Houston, Texas. That is a different kind of swampy heat, and maybe Houston just that big because it got so many freaking people in the city. You got seven lane highways, and listen, if you miss your exit in Houston, just keep going because it's gonna take you 30 minutes to get back to it, man. Jesus Christ, whoever come up with these roads. But yes, I do know about them Mississippi days in the heat because I play with a lot of guys, and they be like, we get so sick of hearing about this Florida heat, Georgia heat. Have y'all been to Mississippi? Yeah, that's right. It's so hot, people don't even come. They don't even come here. It's so hot here.
Well, we usually have the Mr. Humidity contest about the end of the first quarter. So far in the lead, the entire stadium. But, I just think about this. And Ben, that's why we love having you on here. And Yancy, you're getting a perspective from a player. And we know if you get your day started early, if you're going to play 11 o'clock, if you're a coach and you're smart, you'll have your guys go to bed earlier at night. You'll practice more in the morning. You'll flip the schedule around to acclimate your body to it. But at the end of the day, Ben, you know this, and Yancy, as fans, if it's an 11 o'clock game, you are up early and the tailgate. Now, Ben and Yancy, there's 40, 50,000 people outside the stadiums that are tailgating while a game is going on. But bottom line is it's all fun because we've got the best product in America to put on the table. We've got the best brisket. We got the best whiskey, the best looking women. Hell, man, we got it all.
Yeah, I think the women come first on that board, though.
Yeah, come on.
And then I put the brisket too. But yeah, no, it's there's nothing like college football. There's a reason why there's 80, 100,000 seat stadiums in football, and in basketball you got 10, 12,000 seat stadiums, right? Baseball, the same thing. So it carries the weight for a university. It pays for all the other sports. And, the TV money now has just gotten so high. Used to, all the concern was about filling your stadium. But now with the TV money, I just don't think that's such a worry anymore for these colleges. And for the most part, they're still full. But the concern, scheduling around for TV and stuff is not all about attendance anymore because the TV money is so high.
Yeah, Ben, the TV money, here's the thing. Is the TV money, though, going to keep coming if you have half full stadiums? I think the atmospheres are that's a tough argument. Ben, I want your take on it. And then back to you, Yancy.
Yeah, I would. In the past, I would have said yes, but it's like y'all said, the product is so incredible. And look, at the end of the day, this is what they're gonna say. They're gonna it's a combination of what you say, Rob. They're gonna look at outside the stadium and look. The person, and I mean this respectfully, the person who makes the most money and who has the toughest job in college football is the cameraman for Vanderbilt. he know how to get them ankles. He's not gonna get you no wide ankle. I'm gonna keep this thing real close, real tight. I'm not gonna but at the same time, that just shows you. I remember a time to where, football budgets, the whole budget for the school was 20 million, 30 million. Man, please. These TV guys, these TV contracts, they saying, dude, there's a reason why college is on Saturday and the NFL is on Sunday. You wouldn't want to put them up against it. The NFL don't want nothing to do with trying to decide what do you watch between college and pro, because college gives you such a great variety, but some of these games are prime time. So I used to think that the empty stadiums would be a problem, but they lost just slightly a little bit of money in 2020 during the pandemic. They didn't even lose that much money. So when nobody's stadium, revenue dipped just slightly. So I just think that, you want to pack those stadiums, but unfortunately, because you're getting that money, it's just another way it's almost like they can lower ticket prices, even lower concessions to get more people there.
Yeah. And Yancy, we all remember Dan Mullen's comments after the Florida at Texas A&M game, when A&M had about 70,000 people. That was, there was a large crowd at that game, but Ben's right. Even in the pandemic year, you know what the deal is? It's kind of like, think of the thing you love to do the most. Okay. Deer hunting, duck hunting, water skiing, whatever. Even when it's, not good or it, sucks, it's still the best there is. You know what? And what we have in the South, and y'all, Yancy, you've interviewed so many student athletes over the years, and Ben, you're such a great example of why we love it, because there's life after you put up the cleats, but that doesn't mean you stop working out, Ben. At 6'4", 242 pounds, the sophomore from Swainsboro, Georgia, you're not gonna just suddenly stop. Ben, you are always going to be competitive. And that's what's so fun, is to go to these games. My 94-year-old dad's listening right now. He watches Feinbaum every day, 2 to 6. He listens to this show. He listens to everything we're saying. He'll go, well, Yancy did this, or well, Ben, he goes, gentle Ben. He goes, Ben, but when y'all speak, it's because you've been there. Okay. So now, if you were king for the day, if I were king for just one day, wasn't that a song by the Thompson twins? It's so bad, it's bad. But anyway, Ben, it wasn't Tom Petty, because anything he does is great. But Ben, if you were king for the day and you could change some things, what would you change? We're going into a break here in about 35 seconds. What would you change about TV times? You've already elaborated some, but expand.
I would just give it its own. I would give it its own channel, not the main channel. Like, you want to be able to go to break. It's so many channels. It's ESPNU. It's ESPNU 2, 3, 12. It's so many channels. Give it its own, because people get sick of the commercial breaks. Listen, we love college football, but we got stuff to do. It's called Our Boring Lives and getting back to it. And we want to try to enjoy our Saturday. So I would just cut out some of those, give it its own channel, because I just think the TV timeouts has gotten ridiculous, and it's only going to get even worse as the money goes up.
Yeah, and you got to have your sponsors, don't you? We can't. But maybe you do have some options like that. You think that, Yancy, 20 seconds, could that work?
I would get away with the 5-minute injury timeout. If there is a literal injury, yes, you would go to that. But everybody falling down with supposedly a cramp, and then they go to TV commercial for 5 minutes. It's just ridiculous. It's adding 40 minutes to the game.
Yeah, hold those thoughts. Hold those thoughts. We're going to come right back after this quick break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House Equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, we're back with Yancy Porter, Ben Troupe, and Sister Chris. Too much is given, much is required. I'm reading your book, Ben. I love to go back and forth all over it. I love the stories about every student athlete, Yancy. You know this, when you get to know people, it doesn't matter who they are. There's a story behind what makes them who they are. And there's a lot of people that help make them who they are. And one of the things that I do love is during the games, the features. And we learn a lot about the players, but it'd be interesting to see, like, on the fake injury timeouts, when guys go down, they've tried to change that, but they're trying to speed up the game times. I think game time 5 years ago was average football game in college was 3 hours and 21 minutes. Then we got it down. I think it's down now to 3:15 or 3:16. Are either of y'all in favor of these proposed rule changes of not stopping the clock after an incomplete pass in college, like they do in the NFL, where they spot the ball? Do y'all like that?
No.
No. I don't. I think certain things are just built in. Now, I will say this about the injury stuff. You got a camera on every single angle in these freaking stadiums. Look at when a guy gets injured. Is somebody prompting him? Is somebody telling him, "Hey man, go down on the side"? Because when you get injured, you don't have to fake it. Like usually when you get injured, you lay there. You don't try to lay there, get off the ground, and somebody and the trainer's pushing you back down. Like, no. Just stay here for a while. Our defense needs a breather. I think it should be 15, because I always look at it like this. I get it. You got to have the gamesmanship. I get that part. But if your defense can't stop that offense going up and down the field and somebody just going to lay on the ground and get a breather, I think it should be a 15-yard penalty. And those things can be proven. When you look at, if somebody's prompting somebody on the sideline, like giving them a signal to go down, and he forgot to play before, he's like, "Oh, that's right," and he runs to the side, and all of a sudden, my body just gave out of energy and strength, and let me just lay here. I'm not a fan of that. I'm really not. But you can stop the clock. What I am not a fan of is this: if it's under 2 minutes, and yes, I'm gonna feel different if it's my team. If somebody gets a first down, keep the clock going. Like, just keep it going. We get it. They got the first down. Tell those refs to go to Planet Fitness. Get it. Get it a little bit better, because that's what it is. Like, oh, hold on, we got to move the chains. It's fine, because no game is longer than the national championship. It ain't humanly possible for a game to go that, but we get it. But if you break down how long some of these games are going, I know in baseball they got the clock now for the pitchers, right? And the pitchers hate it. They hate it. But it's also baseball. You don't even know they got the clock. The games still take forever. Jesus Christ. But in football, look, we guys, I agree with you, Yancy. I'm not a fan of you make rules for something that needs improvement, not something that's not broken. The incomplete pass, that's fine. Because I'm telling you, once again, let that happen when Alabama's playing, when Georgia's playing. Watch these coaches go crazy. If that clock because once again, Nick Saban wished that 1 second would have went off with the kick six. That's the game's supposed to be over. They shouldn't even got a chance to get out there to kick the field goal. And what happens next? Chris Davis down the sideline, game is over. So sometimes that clock guy, if he's doing a little home cooking going up there, the clock don't go as fast. But I'm not a fan of the incomplete pass trying to keep the clock going. But the fake injuries, that stuff fake injuries and flopping in basketball. Listen, man, go to Hollywood if you want to be an actor. You want to play football or basketball, stop with the nonsense, man.
Yeah. Yancy?
I'm with Ben on that. The thing is that you've got to, if someone has a cramp, help them to the sideline and then start the game. Don't go to a 3-minute timeout, for TV commercials. That you add those up, and literally you're getting 7, 8, 9 of those a game, and you're adding in an extra 3 minutes 8, 9 times. You did the math. That's 27 extra minutes. So that's the biggest problem to me that I see.
Yeah. The other thing too, for both of y'all, and I'll go back Ben and then Yancy on the targeting. When we have Steve Shaw, the coordinator of NCAA officials, on the show, we've asked him about the number of targeting calls. In the 21 season, there was a targeting call on average every 5.2 games, one in every 5.2 games. Last year, I hadn't seen the numbers yet, but I think they were down. It's not about making football softer and kinder. It's about, long-term hitting safer. Ben, my brother-in-law, played college football for Virginia Tech, and, he's in his upper 60s. He's got CTE, but he also played rugby into his 50s. I don't know what happened, but, he's a big guy like you. And what about that? What are your thoughts?
I think it's ridiculous. I don't think people understand how hard it is to get out there on the college football field to be able to contribute to a team. You got 85 scholarship guys, not even counting walk-on guys. You really listen. It's football. Sometimes people get hit, and they get hit real hard, hard. And I think, and sometimes it's not targeting. Look at where the defender was aiming, and look at the offensive guy. Now, if the offensive guy can see, he's gonna brace. So sometimes where my helmet was and where my helmet ended, it looks like he's not targeting me. You go out on the field, the first thing you're going to hear is that you're going to say, listen, they're going to say, being true, sometimes you're going to be the hammer, sometimes you're going to be the nail, but you need to get up regardless. Football is, how hard can you get hit? How hard can you hit consistently? Play in and play out. I don't like it when you're taking a young man off the field because it's all subjective. You say, oh, he was targeting him. Well, I targeted him all game because I went against him all game. I was hitting him all game. Sometimes I just got a good hit on him. Now, I don't like the targeting thing because you're taking away an opportunity when this may be the last time I play football. You're taking me off the field. I know people go back to the whole, Marvin Harrison, junior international champ. It's football, and college football playoff. I'm not a fan of the targeting thing because it's all subjective, and it's usually a very prominent player, like a player that's very, very significant to their teams. I don't listen. Do I like it when it's against my Florida Gators? No. But guess what? It's football. Kyle Pitts got knocked out his last game against the Georgia Bulldogs. He didn't play in the second half. I don't like it, but it is football. And I got to tell people this every time I talk about football. Football is not a contact sport. It's a collision sport. That's why people don't do it. People pay to watch it. They don't want to do that stuff. They're like, you see how hard they hitting out there? And these are the best athletes in the world. Sometimes a guy's going to get help in the helmet. That's why they have them on. Now, if football was played without helmets, I get it. That'll be a little different. But sometimes you're gonna go helmet to helmet. You know who hits helmet to helmet every play? O lineman, D lineman. No one says a word. They going at it. So I'm not a fan of it only because listen, them striped shirts out there, they got the hardest job in life. Because when it's blatantly obvious, they'll say not targeting. And when it's kind of subjective, they'll say it is. And it depends on the game and the player. So I'm not a fan of it, though. Find a way that you talking about rules that need to be switched. Take him out for a play, but don't kick him out the game. I mean, you can't kick a player out the game for doing what he was trained to do.
Yeah,
no,
I'm
just not like the NFL, and it's a 15-yard penalty. Taking him out the game should be that is the problem. The NFL has the perfect model for targeting.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. We got to be careful because look, we all want players to have a healthy life after they finish playing football and while they're playing. But it's a violent game. You join the Marine Corps and then you get deployed because you got money in college to be an ROTC, and all of a sudden you get deployed to combat. You complain about it, which happens every time. Hey, that's what read the fine print. I mean, you know what you're getting into. I heard a Kentucky basketball player on social media last week talking about all the criticism he's getting and all. You signed up with Kentucky, son. You know damn well what you're getting into when you signed up with the Big Blue Nation. You know what? You play for Auburn or Florida or Ole Miss. You're the quarterback. Coach Dye used to say there are 5 people in Alabama that everybody knows from birth: the governor, the head coach at Auburn in Alabama, and the quarterback at Auburn in Alabama. If you can't take the criticism, don't apply for the job. I like that billboard the Marine Corps has now. The Marine Corps, we're not taking applications, only commitments. You're going to play college football. Ben's right. It's a collision sport. Do everything you can to be safe. Ben, my dad played in the days of leather helmets. Okay. How many times did you break your nose, Dad? I don't know, 3 or 4 I can remember. But he goes, we didn't know how to tackle right because we didn't lead with our head. But you know what? What's happening is they're teaching them better, and I think the penalties are going down. But even, how about this, Yancy and Ben? Like in soccer, you got a yellow card and a red card for penalties and whatever. You get a 15 or a 30-yard penalty or something, that will get people's attention, guys. And I love what Ben just said. And Yancy, I got wound up. I'm on my Jolt Cola or whatever this thing is Audrey gave me. I'm wound up. Go ahead. Breaker 1-9. Go ahead, Yancy.
No, I mean, I like that. I just think that you should receive a penalty. I don't think you should be getting kicked out of the game. That is where I differ in the targeting calls. I think the NFL has the perfect model now. True, the NFL, they can't fine you, and obviously you can't find college players. Well, maybe you can now with the NIL money. Who knows? but I'm with Ben. You don't need to be kicking players out of it. You see somebody targeting now because the offensive player, gets low and the defensive player is trying to get low. And then, helmets collide. That's football.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about this, guys. Think about if Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker, Marcus Dupree, Earl Campbell, what if they were playing today? When they would lower their head, you knew hell's coming. You better be ready. Ben, I can't imagine being out on the edge trying to take you. I mean, how much did you bench press at your max and leg and all that stuff?
Man, I think I got super duper. I got them Kevin Durant arms. So my max was like right around 400 pounds. But even with that though, Rob, let me say this though. Look. I did this stuff because I had to. Like, if it was up to me, I would have been a rapper. I would have been repping from the time I got to college to the time I left. But that's the thing about college football that people don't get. This is what people should do. This is what people should do. If you can, because nobody's running fast anymore. Our fast is not fast anymore. I want you to get up enough energy to run as fast as you can. Get somebody else to run at you, and I want the person to run at you to make a move, and you got to tackle them. Look now, I got to run and I got to tackle, and we both great athletes. Things happen milliseconds. Like that's why people go, "Hey man, grown men can run 4.4 and 40. I can run 4.4 and 40 yards. Yeah, I can run that fast." So just imagine if that's 20 yards. We moving that fast, and the collisions are gonna be crazy sometimes. As a person who's been on the bad side of a car, we call them car wrecks in football. I've been the one that took the worst of it, right? But that's football. I tell people this all the time. Football is real similar to your job every day. If you love what you do, you still question it. You still walk in every day and saying, man, I can't keep doing this. If you don't question playing football, you're in the wrong sport. The only people that love football are fans and coaches because neither one got to go out there. Neither one of them got to go out there. But if you got to go out there, if you've been hit enough, football teaches you how to survive, then you thrive in it. I got to learn how to survive out here because old Albert Haynesworth that I played with the Tennessee Titans, we ran a tight end screen one time to me in practice, and when I catch the pass, he's standing right there. I had serious, and I'm getting paid at this point. I had serious doubts. This might not be for me. Now, he didn't tackle me. He could have. And I said, so Norm Chow, who came from USC, said, Troupe, how you like that play? We might want to take that one out. Yeah, we might not need that one because it didn't work. In his mind, I said, listen, man, I go up against Cincinnati. I go up against Baltimore. This ain't Stanford over here, man. This ain't the Oregon Ducks, man. You got the best. And I think the thing about it is I got bigger and stronger because I had to learn how to survive first. I didn't care about how I looked in the uniform. I just have to look a certain way because that guy in front of me, I'm like, wait a minute, he's 19, I'm 18. What they feeding y'all in Athens? Because my potatoes don't make my body look like this. So I do think that just being able to understand, that's why I would change. You talking about a king for a day. They need to let certain fans run out with the team. Not in front, because you're gonna get trampled. Let you run out with the team just so you can see how hot it is out there. And every fan needs to go to practice to see just how much goes into a practice. And guess what? 80% of those guys ain't gonna play. So those guys are doing the same reps, getting screamed at by Saban and Dabo Sweeney and whomever, and they're gonna be on the sideline cheering the whole time with a uniform on. That's the dedication that goes into it. So I respect everybody that does it. I don't respect Rex Grossman any more than I respect the backup quarterback that's never going to get in because there's only so many slots. But respect the fact that these players and coaches, man, never strap it up. I know players that got the floor with me, never played. Listen, never. We got in there in 2000. They never got out there. Went through injuries, acupuncture, epidurals in their back, just so they can walk. It's crazy stuff. So when people see the sacrifice, it's gonna. And I'm not saying that the fans don't, but these refs, they need to let these refs come to practice. Like, listen, that guy you just threw out.
Yeah.
He was a walk-on that finally got to play, and you threw him out because he happened to hit another player real hard. Come on, man. That's why we got pads on. Let them be full. I don't think the game is soft. I think the people watching are trying to protect the players, which I get it. But listen, at the end of the day, if you don't look, as my coach would say, look, man, this ain't for everybody. That's why everybody don't do it. You got to be a little. You can't be wrapped too tight if you play football. Tell your dad, Rob. Listen, I understand, sir. We ain't wrapped too tight. No one says, hey, I'm finna run 50 yards. I'm finna run into another human being. I'm trying to knock him out, and he gonna knock me out. That sounds like a crazy person, but that's what we do, and we do it every Saturday and Sunday. And listen, we do it to you. Hopefully, we do it to you guys enjoy it.
Well, and safety, you got great medical staff, and you know what, Yancy, Ben just laid out a case that's good enough to win in front of the Supreme Court. But Yancy, about out of time. I know you've got to get back. And Ben, hang on with us if you can. We got Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, coming up in a minute, talking about Georgia. But Yancy, tell people how they can keep up with all your great work and the Rebel Yell Hotline.
Love hearing you talk, Ben, by the way. You just go to Yancy Porter, and that's on Twitter, Facebook. It's very easy. Not too many Yancys around. The only other one I really knew was Yancy Thickand, but I didn't make the money he made.
Well, look, you need to get Ben on the Rebel Yell Hotline when y'all play Florida or what have you. Ben, Ben, I think in Ben's neighborhood, you grew up, you played with Carlos Rogers, didn't you?
I played. In my neighborhood of Swainsboro, I played with Titus Peebles that went to Arkansas, and Shannon Wiley that went to Alabama, and Charles Silas that went to Alabama. Carlos Rogers played with me in Butler High School. We played on the same high school team. I didn't know he was going to go on and win the Thorpe Award. That boy, he didn't even play defense in high school. Goes on to win the Thorpe Award at freaking Auburn top 10 pick. So, hey.
Hey, you know what's crazy? I mean, think about those neighborhood football games, Yancy. That's something in the water down there in Swainsboro. But Yancy, look, man, thank you so much for taking time to join us. And let's get that momentum going for spring games, man, for the big competition. But love having you on here. And Ben, hang on. We're going to come back after the break. And Yancy, Rebel Yell Hotline, don't forget it, folks. Monday nights at 6 o'clock. We're pushing for an extra hour and a TV show on Super Talk Mississippi and Sports 56. Be back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
All right, back with Ben Troupe and now Jordan Hill. 24/7 Sports covers the Georgia Bulldogs for us. Wild discussion there with Yancy Porter talking about college football and collisions and targeting penalties and what all's going on in the game. But it was a wake-up call. And Jordan, Ben and I were looking forward to hearing what you got to say with Georgia, because right now being a Georgia fan and being part of that program is like being so wealthy. Your only decision you have to make every day is, do I take my millions in 20s or 50s? But let's talk about what's going on up there, because Ben played a little football down there for the Florida Gators, and Georgia is going for a three-peat. It ain't been done since the 1930s when Minnesota did it. And people can say what they want about Georgia's schedule. They got Kirby Smart to deal with, And what'd you say? The only thing he loves more than Georgia and recruiting is winning.
No doubt about it. And, we're past the halfway point of spring at this point, 10 practices down, 5 to go. And, it was really interesting last night, guys. We got a chance to talk to the two quarterbacks fighting for this job with Carson Beck and Brock Vandegrift. And, that they're usually really, don't want to give us that kind of access. But it was really good kind of getting to pick their brains. And, it's two really interesting situations, two guys that have kind of waited their turn. Carson Beck is a junior, and Brock Vandegrift's a redshirt sophomore. And, those guys talked about why they stuck around and, the lessons they've learned. Carson talked about picking Stetson Bennett's brain and, learning about, sort of biding your time and trying to take advantage when you get that opportunity. And then, Brock Vandegrift, a lot of people were convinced after last season, though, he's probably going to leave. He's going to go try to play somewhere else. And, I asked him about that, and he said, look, I was getting better, with Coach Monken and now getting better with Coach Bobo. He said, if I wasn't getting reps, if I wasn't getting better, then yeah, I probably would have left. But he said, we're in a place where there's so much talent, there's so much competition. It makes you get better every day. Very interesting to get to kind of see their perspective, because it's one of those weird things with quarterbacks. They've been the talk of the spring, but we hadn't talked to either one of them. But got good perspective on both of those guys. And I really think if you're a Georgia fan, just based on what we've been hearing about how they performed and based on what they told us last night, I think you should feel okay no matter who wins this job, because I think they're both very capable, quality starters.
Ben?
And Jordan, even sticking with the quarterbacks, I mean, you talk about a guy like Stetson Bennett, who people forget, for which Carson got some snaps in, and obviously no one knew how great Stetson would become. But how much better does it make that quarterback room to say, look, man, being patient at the University of Georgia quarterback, can pay a huge dividend.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it only helps them, and listening to them last night, I think that, again, you got to keep in mind these are young guys. You can't blame, in the portal era, and I wrote about this morning, you see so many guys leave, and I get it. There's only one football. You want to go out there and show what you're capable of doing. But I think Carson Beck said it best, saying Stetson's the best example really for any of us, because he was told no over and over again, left Georgia, came back to Georgia, was, initially not going to play then. And then JT Daniels gets hurt, and, kind of the rest is history. I think that it helps them, and I think there may not be a better coach they could have at this point as far as position coach than Mike Bobo, because, I'm thinking back, I covered Auburn when he was hired as the offensive coordinator, and talking to guys like Aaron Murray and DJ Shockley, Hudson Mason, they were like, he is so demanding of his quarterbacks, and they talked about it last night that Brock said that Mike Bobo came in basically his first day as the coordinator and said, all right, I'm going to coach y'all hard. He said, wasn't really much of a question. It was just, hey, this is what it's going to be. And we all said, all right, yes, sir. I think that it's only going to help them get better. And, if down the road somebody leaves, if, whoever wins the battle, I think that they're all better suited for having been here and getting the competition, being behind Stetson the way they were, and even competing this spring with three really good quarterbacks with those two, and then the younger guy in Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah, and Ben, I love that line of questioning. You're hanging in there and not leaving. And Stetson Bennett, for them to talk to him, hey, I did leave. I came back. I was told no over and over. I mean, hell, I say I'm in sales. To me, no means tell me more. The personality of this Georgia team has got to be one of just a bunch of tough, hard-ass competitors. I don't see – Kirby Smart's not going to allow anything less. Say what you want. Mike Bobo, you put him in the right program. The year – you said it best. The year after he left Georgia to go to Colorado State, they struggled.
Yeah, we don't talk about Brian Schottenheimer too much from that year. He was offensive coordinator. But, two, talking about Carson Beck, he made a good point about what you were just saying, Rob. Talking about the battle and having to fight for this job, he was like, this is the University of Georgia. He said that's what it's like at every position. And, again, you look at how Georgia recruits, how they consistently get top talent across the board and have gotten really good quarterbacks as part of those classes. it probably would say a lot negatively if you came into a year after you lose your starter and you go, well, I mean, this guy's clearly the guy. Well, then what about those other 2 or 3 guys in that room? I mean, that means, that you got guys you don't feel very good about. And, if that guy you think is a starter takes one hit, then what are you looking at? I think it's a good problem to have. You want to have guys that are capable, and I think that's what Georgia has right now. And I think that's why we've continued to hear, they've only scrimmaged once. I'll have another scrimmage on Saturday. Yeah. But that these guys haven't really separated themselves. And I think that worries fans, but I really think that should just tell you these guys are really talented. There's not one guy that's just above and beyond the best of the guys competing for this job.
Yeah. Yeah. Ben?
Jordan, when I think about Georgia, I mean, I know it's a talent retention business, and nobody does it better than Kirby stockpiling. But you mentioned Mike Bobo, Mel Tucker, Dan Lanning, Sam Pittman, Coach Monken. When these coaches come, nobody's going to be watching the quarterback, like this year, like with Coach Bobo. He gets that. He's been around. He knows Georgia up and down. He knows the SEC up and down. Does Kirby Smart understand that he has become the new catapult? Look, man, the coaching tree now used to be Saban this and Dabo that. Now it's, hey, man, Mel Tucker signs for $90-something million, at Michigan State. You talk about Dan Lanning at Oregon. Sam Pittman don't get talked about enough of what he does, at Arkansas. Coach Monken, he gets to move on to bigger, the bigger and better, if you want to call it that. Do guys come in now knowing, look, man, you coach right here. I know the players want to go pro. Do Coach Smart got to tell these NFL scouts, are you here to scout my players, or do you want one of my coaches?
Well, I think you saw that with Glenn Schumann. I mean, there was a lot of talk that Glenn may wind up leaving. The Philadelphia Eagles were really after him, and he's been basically Kirby's right-hand man. He was the first hire he made when he came to Georgia in December of 2015. But, yeah, I think that's part of it, and I think that helps. I think about last season when they were hiring. They had a really interesting mix of assistant coaches they brought in. They brought in guys. Bobo was an analyst. Brian McClendon was hired as a receivers coach. Stacy Searles was the offensive line coach. Guys that had coached at Georgia and guys who had been around Kirby at least a little bit. And then on the other side, the 2 defensive guys they hired were 2 really young up-and-comers, outside linebackers coach Shadera Uzo-Duribe and the defensive back coach Fran Browne. Those are both really young guys that had gotten a lot of positive feedback and we're really seen as up and coming guys. And I think that those guys are going to eventually take that step like Ben's talking about, that these guys, I was very curious, if Fran would wind up leaving to go to Nebraska this offseason because he had coached with Matt Rule, both at Temple and Baylor. Wound up not happening. I think a big part of it is the success at Georgia. And, I talked to Fran back before the Peach Bowl, and, he talked about learning with Kirby and Will Muschamp. 2 of the best defensive backs coaches in the, you put them up there with Nick Saban at how good they are at coaching that position. And Fran talked about that. You think about that position specifically, how much he can learn. And he's still a young guy. I think he's maybe early 40s, and Chidera is even younger than that. He's like 31 or 32. He's super young. I think guys understand it's going to be very demanding if you go coach for Kirby. Going to be a lot of early mornings and late nights, but you see opportunity. And I do think those are the kind of guys that I think 5-10 years from now, you're going to see that they have really climbed the ladder in this profession.
Yeah. And looking at the more talented players, Georgia, you're not seeing them have a number 1 class in the country and then number 51. It's 1, 2, 1 back and forth. And Ben, this, the great ones, the competitors, the alpha males, they're not worried about competition. They're just worried about making sure they're doing what they've got to do every day. And I noticed Kirby said something again. It's not that he doesn't want players from the portal. He doesn't have a zero portal policy, but most of this past national championship team was Georgia guys that had been there for a while. And Ben, this, you talked about it both today. It's retention. And Jordan, that right there means you've got a great culture to keep guys from leaving, even though they could and probably play quicker at other places.
No doubt. We saw some turnover this offseason, but you didn't really lose a ton. A.D. Mitchell is the biggest guy you lost, but besides that, there's a lot of reserve guys, a lot of older guys that, you think about a guy like Tresman Marshall, I think is really talented, he transferred to Alabama, and a big part of that is going to be playing time. Think about how crazy that is. We're saying that he left to go to Alabama because he's got a bigger window to play compared to when he was at Georgia. But, I'll be really interested to see what happens after the spring, because I think it's only natural you'll see some people move on from there. I think it speaks to that people want to win. Everybody wants to start and everybody wants to play, but I mean, Georgia's got proof of concept at this point, and I think that helps a lot of guys say, you know what, I'm going to grind it out. I'm going to stick with it. Maybe I don't play a lot this year, but I've got, this much time left, and eventually I think I'll get my chance, and I can prove that I'm worth putting out there. If it's not this season, then hopefully the next one.
Yeah, it's just like in any kind of business that you have, it's relationships. You better know your clients, their children, and their grandchildren, because if they die and you don't know them, they're going somewhere else. Ben, you probably saw that a lot at Florida and in the NFL. If coaches aren't talking to the 2s and the 3s every day, they're not going to be around and to be developed anyway.
Yeah, and the thing about Kirby Smart is Kirby Smart understands that when, a place like Kirby Smart is very, 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 very rare, because he played at the same school he's having to. That's hard to do. That's why Coach Frost went back to Nebraska, right? It's hard to do it. Cristobal's down there in Miami. It's hard, and the craziest thing is when you actually do it. People think the stress is not getting there. It's doing it. Then the expectation is really crazy. And I think and the thing is, I mean, you talk about Coach Kirby Smart. He went to the national championship with Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm wasn't a guy, right? He goes in. Then he gets his little guy named Stetson. Everybody says Stetson went through. I don't know who's going to play him in this movie. I don't know. It's going to be because when you talk about why people go to Georgia, I said this, and I didn't want to be right. I said if the University of Georgia is going to win that championship, the quarterback is going to be from Georgia. He's not going to be Matthew Stafford from
Highland Park, Texas.
It's not going to be, and that's nothing against me. Listen, he's not going to be Aaron Murray from Tampa. He's going to be a kid that grew up wearing red and black, saying, "Dude, I just want to play there." Now, Stetson don't look the part. I get it. He walks in the room, they're like, "That's him." That's the guy that every game in the college football playoff he was the MVP, or SEC championship MVP. But the thing is, he goes, go back to my high school career. Sorry, man. My dad's 5'9", my mama's 5'6". If I was 6'4", that ain't my daddy. Not him. It don't happen like that. I come from small people with big game, because I think his little brother's there. It's a preferred walk-on. I'm so sick of these business at Georgia. The only thing I was looking at saying, Stetson Bennett got another year eligibility, because it ain't Brock Vandergrift, it's Brock Bowers, both of them. And I love the tight end position. I got so sick of him and Darnell Washington, but I always say this too, though. I'm a fan of college football players first, college football second. If you're not a fan of Stetson Bennett, you don't like football. I don't care who you're rooting for. I'm not rooting for the team he's on, but that guy right there, he run out on the field. He's the smallest guy out there outside the kickers. Every time he run out there, his game is the biggest. He ain't Jalen Carter. He ain't Nolan Smith. He ain't Darnell Washington. You take Stetson Bennett away the last 3 years, Georgia's good. They ain't undefeated. I just don't, because you got to be built. He's in a room with 5 and 6 and 7 stars, and they watching him. So I'm happy. Listen, I'm happy that his eligibility is gone, because he made me sick. Because Jesus Christ, Stetson, show some weakness. He has not. He is a big, but he went through the ringer, went to Alabama and lost, and then came back and beat him. Right? Understood. I've been in these big moments, man. And all I'm saying is, I think the quarterback position for Georgia Jordan is going to be better, because they understand, look, man, if you ain't good enough, they're going to pull you. Because Georgia used to be run, throw. Now, more of that balance, I'm looking to see how they're going to be in 2023, because Georgia has 1,000-yard receiving season for 1 year, and that's a Terrence Evans.
Yeah.
One in the history of Georgia with the Hines Wars, and that's crazy to me. So I'm looking to see Brock Bowers. Unfortunately, he has another year eligibility. Hopefully, he takes a year off. He's done all he can do. Okay, we don't want to say it. No. I'm looking forward to watch him, because I do kind of agree with what David Pollack said, even though he had to say it in front of Saban. The standard is in Athens right now. Doesn't mean that Alabama ain't coming. And he had to say that in front of Saban and look at him like, sorry, dude, I know I'm a little biased because I went there. But I think Georgia is the reason why, teams in the SEC understand if you can't beat the boys from Athens, it used to be the boys from Tuscaloosa, which it still is. You can't beat Georgia, it don't matter. You have a good season. I know Shane, I know Beamer and company got Beamer ball up there. I know Ole Miss is winning 9 to 10 games. If you can't beat them boys from Athens, love you TCU, but everybody think they want that neutral field. It ain't neutral when Georgia's playing. It's a built-in disadvantage because they listen. They get you in a bar and they beat the hell out of you. If you can punch them back, but they drink their own blood up there in Athens, man. They don't even need water up there right now. I don't know what they doing. But hey, man, I can't do nothing but be congratulatory. The fan in me wants to say something different, but the analyst in me knows, man, y'all doing some great things. Jordan, it's got to make your job easy coming to work knowing, hey, man, I'm talking about back-to-back natties, man. Because let's call it, Jordan. You could have got hired in Nashville. You could be talking about Vandy.
Hey,
call it what it is.
Ben, I came from Auburn, so I got the first season of Harsin, and I was not sad I missed the second season. I promise.
Ooh, you were blessed. The governor got through a stay. Jordan, I tell you what, this is an unbelievable discussion about what's going on. Tell people, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but tell people how they can follow you, keep up with all the great work. And people, don't forget, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. And thanks to all of our listeners and our guests, another great show. It's so much fun, but Jordan, we love having you on here. You've got one of the best jobs in America.
No doubt about it. Dogs247.com, on Twitter at Jordan Davis Hill, and on Twitter at Dogs247. I did want to say, feel really bad. I should have on April Fool's Day posted a story and said Stetson's got another year of eligibility. I think Ben might have had a stroke, but man, I'm like, man, I really should have done that.
No. At the end of the day, I would have just, I got gas money. I would have drove over the ads and said, Stetson, get the hell out of here. What? No, leave. I'm sick of you, bro. Like I get it. I'll tell him and Tim Tebow gonna have a great conversation one day, but. Now I need you to get on, and hopefully somebody, whoever draft this man, if he don't get drafted, shame on all 32 of your teams. You telling me he ain't worthy of a draft pick? I would beg to differ.
I agree, and Jordan, he's, to me, you know how much I've said it for the last couple of years. Why he should have won the Heisman Trophy. It's not even debatable.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things, and I wrote about this at the time, just kind of saying why he was worthy of being a finalist. He didn't play a whole lot of snaps in fourth quarters of games because they didn't need him to. And that honestly may benefit Georgia this year with Carson Beck taking those snaps. But, yeah, I mean, he was worthy of being there. And I am glad just for everything he went through, he got a chance to go because just an incredible story. And I think he took it all in when he got to go.
All right, we're going to have you write the book. We'll talk about it next week. Jordan Hill, Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal. Unbelievable show. Thank y'all so much. We'll do it again next week. Until then, have a great day. We are out of here.
Appreciate it.